So continuing with the readings on the 5 Khandas, we're reading a number of excerpts from or suttas, and all the translations will be by Ajahn Thitapanno. Is Khanda Samyutta number 22, the burden. Near Sawati, monks, I will teach you the burden, the carrier of the burden, the taking up of the burden, and the casting off of the burden. Listen and pay close attention, I will speak. As you say, Lord, the monks responded to him. The Blessed One said, and which is the burden? The 5 clinging aggregates, it should be said. Which 5? The form clinging aggregate, the feeling clinging aggregate, the perception clinging aggregate, the fabrications clinging aggregate, the consciousness clinging aggregate. This, monks, is called the burden. And which is the carrier of the burden? The person, it should be said. This variable one with such a name, such a clan name, this is called the carrier of the burden. And which is the taking up of the burden? The craving that makes for further becoming, accompanied by passion and delight, relishing now here and now there. In other words, craving for sensuality, craving for becoming, craving for non-becoming. This is called the taking up of the burden. In which is the casting off of the burden, the remainderless fading and cessation, renunciation, relinquishment, release, and letting go of that very craving. This is called the casting off of the burden. This is what the Blessed One said. Having said that, the one well gone, the teacher said further, a burden indeed are the 5 aggregates, and the carrier of the burden is the person. Taking up the burden in the world is stressful. Casting off the burden is bliss. Having cast off the heavy burden, and not taking on another, pulling up craving along with its root, one is freed from hunger, totally unbound. Khanda Samyutta, number 36. If one stays obsessed with form, monk, that's one is measured by, limited by. Whatever one is measured by, limited by, that's how one is classified. If one stays obsessed with feeling, perception, fabrications, if one stays obsessed with consciousness, that's what one is measured by, limited by. Whatever one is measured by, limited by, that's how one is classified. But if one does not stay obsessed with form, monk, that's not what one is measured by, limited by. Whatever one is not measured by, limited by, that's not how one is classified. If one does not stay obsessed with feeling, perception, fabrications, if one does not stay obsessed with consciousness, that's not what one is measured by, limited by. Whatever one is not measured by, limited by, that's not how one is classified. Majjhima Nikaya 22. What do you think, monks, if a person were to gather or burn or do as he likes with the grass, twigs, branches, and leaves here in Jeta's grove, would the thought occur to you? It's us that this person is gathering, burning, or doing with as he likes. No, Lord. Why is that? Because those things are not ourself, nor do they belong to ourself. Even so, monks, whatever is not yours, let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term welfare and happiness. And what is not yours? Form is not yours. Feeling is not yours. Perception is not yours. Fabrication is not yours. Consciousness is not yours. Let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term welfare and happiness. Khandas Samyutta 57. And just this noble eightfold path is the path of practice, leading to the cessation of form. In other words, right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. The fact that pleasure and happiness arise in dependence on form, that is the allure of form. The fact that form is inconstant, stressful, subject to change, that is the drawback of form. The subduing of desire and passion for form, the abandoning of desire and passion for form, that is the escape from form. And it continues similarly with the other four aggregates. Khandas Samyutta, number 37. Monks, suppose there were a river flowing down from the mountains, going far, its current swift, carrying everything with it, and holding on to both banks, kasa grasses, kusa grasses, reeds, birana grasses, and trees were growing. Then a man swept a bit away by the current would grab hold of the kasa grasses, but they would tear away, and so from that he would come to disaster. He would grab hold of the kusa grasses, the reeds, the birana grasses, the trees, but they would tear away, and so from that cause he would come to disaster. In the same way, there is the case wherein an uninstructed run-of-the-mill person, who has no regard for noble ones, is not well versed or disciplined in their dhamma, who has no regard for people of integrity, is not well versed or disciplined in their dhamma, assumes form to be the self, or the self as possessing form, or form as in the self, or the self as in form. That form tears away from him, and so from that cause he would come to disaster. He assumes feeling, perception, fabrications to be the self. He assumes consciousness to be the self, or the self as possessing consciousness, or consciousness as in the self, or the self as in consciousness. That consciousness tears away from him, and so from that cause he would come to disaster. Khandas Samyutta number 39. For a monk practicing Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma, what accords with the Dhamma is this, that he keeps cultivating disenchantment with regard to form, that he keeps cultivating disenchantment with regard to feeling, that he keeps cultivating disenchantment with regard to perception, that he keeps cultivating disenchantment with regard to fabrications, that he keeps cultivating disenchantment with regard to consciousness. As he keeps cultivating disenchantment with regard to form, feeling, perception, fabrications, consciousness, he comprehends form, feeling, perception, fabrications, consciousness. As he comprehends form, feeling, perception, fabrications, consciousness, he is totally released from form, feeling, perception, fabrications, consciousness. He is totally released from sorrows, lamentations, pain, distresses, and despairs. He is totally released, I tell you, from suffering and stress. Number 23. Monks, I will teach you the phenomena to be comprehended as well as comprehension. Listen and pay close attention. I will speak. As you say, Lord, the monks responded. The Blessed One said, and which are the phenomena to be comprehended? Form is a phenomenon to be comprehended. Feeling, perception, fabrications, consciousness is a phenomenon to be comprehended. These are called phenomena to be comprehended. And which is comprehension? Any ending of passion, ending of aversion, ending of delusion. This is called comprehension. Nikayas 9. I teach the dhamma for the abandoning of the gross acquisition of a self, the mind-made acquisition of a self, the formless acquisition of a self, such that when you practice it, defiling mental qualities will be abandoned, bright mental qualities will grow, and you will enter and remain in the culmination and abundance of discernment, having known and realized it for yourself in the here and now. If the thought should occur to you that, when defiling mental qualities are abandoned, and bright mental qualities have grown, and one enters and remains in the culmination and abundance of discernment, having known and realized it for oneself in the here and now, one's abiding is stressful, painful, you should not see it in that way. When defiling mental qualities are abandoned and bright mental qualities have grown, and one enters and remains in the culmination and abundance of discernment, having known and realized it for oneself in the here and now, there is joy, rapture, serenity, mindfulness, alertness, and a pleasant, happy abiding. Samyutta Nikaya 23, number 2. It's just as when boys or girls are playing with little sand castles, literally dirt houses. As long as they are not free from passion, desire, love, thirst, fever, and craving for those little sand castles, that's how long they have fun with those sand castles, enjoy them, treasure them, feel possessive of them. But when they become free from passion, desire, love, thirst, fever, and craving for those little sand castles, then they smash them, scatter them, demolish them with their hands or feet, and make them unfit for play. In the same way, Radha, you too should smash, scatter, and demolish form, and make it unfit for play. Practice for the ending of craving for form. You should smash, scatter, and demolish feeling, and make it unfit for play. Practice for the ending of craving for feeling. You should smash, scatter, and demolish perception, and make it unfit for play. Practice for the ending of craving for perception. You should smash, scatter, and demolish fabrications, and make them unfit for play. Practice for the ending of craving for fabrications. You should smash, scatter, and demolish consciousness, and make it unfit for play. Practice for the ending of craving for consciousness, because the ending of craving, Radha, is unbinding. Now read Majjhima Nikaya 131. We have a translation of this in our chanting book, but this is Ajahn Sucitto's translation. An auspicious day, Bade Karata Sutta. I have heard that on one occasion, the Blessed One was staying near Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There he addressed the monks. Monks! Yes, Lord, the monks responded to him. The Blessed One said, Monks, I will teach you the summary and exposition of one who has had an auspicious day. Listen and pay close attention. I will speak. As you say, Lord, the monks responded to him. The Blessed One said, You should not chase after the past or place expectations on the future. What is past is left behind. The future is as yet unreached. Whatever quality is present, you clearly see right there, right there. Not taken in, unshaken, that's how you develop the heart. Aren't doing what should be done today? For who knows? Tomorrow, death. There is no bargaining with mortality and his mighty horde. Whoever lives thus ardently, relentlessly, both day and night, has truly had an auspicious day. So says the peaceful sage. And how, monks, does one chase after the past? One gets carried away with the delight of, in the past I had such a form, in the past I had such a feeling, in the past I had such a perception, in the past I had such a fabrication, in the past I had such a consciousness. This is called chasing after the past. And how does one not chase after the past? One does not get carried away with the delight of, in the past I had such a form, in the past I had such a feeling, in the past I had such a perception, in the past I had such a fabrication, in the past I had such a consciousness. This is called not chasing after the past. And how does one place expectations on the future? One gets carried away with the delight of, in the future I might have such a form. In the future I might have such a feeling. In the future I might have such a perception. In the future I might have such a fabrication. In the future I might have such a consciousness. This is called placing expectations on the future. And how does one not place expectations on the future? One does not get carried away with the delight of, in the future I might have such a form. In the future I might have such a feeling. In the future I might have such a perception. In the future I might have such a fabrication. In the future I might have such a consciousness. This is called not placing expectations on the future. And how is one taken in with regard to present qualities? There is the case where an uninstructed run-of-the-mill person who has not seen the noble ones, is not versed in the teachings of the noble ones, is not trained in the teachings of the noble ones, sees form as self, or self as possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form. He or she sees feeling as self, or self as possessing feeling, or feeling as in self, or self as in feeling. He or she sees perception as self, or self as possessing perception, or perception as in self, or self as in perception. He or she sees fabrications as self, or self as possessing fabrications, or fabrications as in self, or self as in fabrications. He or she sees consciousness as self, or self as possessing consciousness, or consciousness as in self, or self as in consciousness. This is called being taken in with regard to present qualities. And how is one not taken in with regard to present qualities? There is the case where a disciple of the noble ones, who has seen the noble ones, is versed in the teachings of the noble ones, is well trained in the teachings of the noble ones, does not see form as self, or self as possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form. He or she does not see feeling as self, or self as possessing feeling, or feeling as in self, or self as in feeling. He or she does not see perception as self, or self as possessing perception, or perception as in self, or self as in perception. He or she does not see fabrications as self, or self as possessing fabrications, or fabrications as in self, or self as in fabrications. He or she does not see consciousness as self, or self as possessing consciousness, or consciousness as in self, or self as in consciousness. This is called not being taken in with regard to present qualities. You should not chase after the past, or place expectations on the future. What is past is left behind. The future is as yet unreached. Whatever quality is present, you clearly see right there, right there. Not taken in, unshaken. That's how you develop the heart. Ardently doing what should be done today, for, who knows, tomorrow, death. There is no bargaining with mortality and his mighty horde. Whoever lives thus ardently, relentlessly, both day and night, has truly had an auspicious day. So says the peaceful sage. Monks, I will teach you the summary and exposition of one who has had an auspicious day. Thus it was said, and in reference to this was it said. This is what the Blessed One said. Gratified, the monks delighted in the Blessed One's words. Now for the last Dhamma reflection, there'll be some reflections from Lungpo Sucitto from a talk given at Amaravati in 2017. Does anyone have any questions or comments before I do that? Reflections?
It's tangentially related. I'm wondering if you could touch on dispassion and kind of the relationship between dispassion and equanimity.
Relationship, dispassion, equanimity. Yes. I guess maybe just offer some small reflections. Yeah, maybe for me, I think it's about the four worldly winds, like gain, loss, status and loss, status, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. And when you see the ups and downs of these emotions we feel, or the gratification, the danger, and the escape, if there's some sort of pleasant sensory experience, then if we're also aware of the danger and the dukkha that comes with that experience, like we can lose some of our freedom to it, or it can obsess our mind, then just feeling and being aware of the dukkha of it, I think leads to dispassion and for me, like on the ups and downs, the worldly winds has that steadiness of sort of like zooming out, quality of equanimity, like seeing the bigger picture and not getting so swept up. But don't know if any of the other Ajahns have any reflections on dispassion and equanimity.
I think one of the things is with dispassion and equanimity is in the English language, it's kind of cold and heartless, or dull and dreary. That's your association in the English language, but with in Pali and in the practice traditions, and dispassion and equanimity are kind of like the key or the doorway to stability and clarity, so that one is able to not be shaken and not be reactive. Doesn't mean that it wasn't feel anything, but it's in perspective, and one doesn't get swept up. So it's an important distinction. Both the English words of dispassion and equanimity, the connotations are pretty weird. But it's where, dispassion and equanimity are really where you start to shine as a practitioner.
Could you say something like equanimity would be like a state, and then dispassion would be like an attitude?
Pardon?
Equanimity would be like a state, and then dispassion would be like an attitude, like in that?
No, they've got, no, I wouldn't draw too firm a distinction. They're interwoven or interlinked. And it's okay to have two words for similar things. Because it's like, as you can have equanimity for a situation, and it isn't just a state. I mean, it's an attitude, perspective, and same. And it can be both. And I think with both dispassion and equanimity have certain similarities.
I think one of the sense I have around dispassion is just thinking about the word passion and how that's like an all-consuming, or you have so many adjectives that the Buddha talks about with desire, and he's just craving and gaining and getting and becoming all this kind of like drawing in, and then dispassion it seems to arise out of the practice through the various means that the Buddha describes for how we practice, and then what it seems to feel is like this kind of like, why would I want to get involved in that? Or it's like interesting to think of passion and then it becomes very ugly or something that isn't, one doesn't take an interest in anymore, because the more subtle things of the mind take precedence or interest. So then it's like there's a turning away almost that feels quite good and like almost like an interest one has in what isn't filled with passion, what is calm and relinquishing and those things. So it's it's something quite, I think, good to reflect on that word in general.
Yeah, well, something that comes to mind is it's also that sense of, passion is focused on your actual objects are kind of unskillful or negative or complicated, and dispassion frees up the mind to actually experience, like there's a idiom that dhamma ragena dhamma chanda, sort of that desire for the Dhamma, that passion for the Dhamma. And that's actually a catalyst for, say, non-return. So, no small thing.
One point, how would you suggest cultivating equanimity?
Just keep seeing over and over again how pathetic it is to get caught up in.
So through suffering.
Yeah,
You're
suffering is a great doorway.
Or do you have any favorite reflections in terms of like seeing how pathetic it is to get caught up in things?
Oh, I just look at myself. It's a constant reminder. It's good not to take oneself too serious. You can get overly serious sometimes about trying to make the practice perfect. Trying to do things right all the time. And so to realize that there's always a long way to go.
Just to follow up on, I think it was maybe a Pali phrase you quoted, dhamma ragena, dhamma chanda, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you just say a little bit more, so that'd be like dhamma raga, like passion for the dhamma, dhamma chanda, like desire for dhamma, but like how that, how the importance of that, or how that functions in the practice, or the conditions for that?
Oh, I think it's, I think just reflecting on how true it is, and you know, just how fortunate one is to have the opportunity to be exposed to the Buddhist teachings and to find a path. I mean, that's a great sort of catalyst. But yeah, reflecting on how the Buddha just was so straight and true in his presentation and his ability to see through things out of the world is just pure. It gives one a lot of encouragement. Also, there's like that sometimes like connecting into real people, like biographies of teachers, practitioners, and really helpful. It's not keeping it abstract and theoretical. So this is how people have done this, people have lived it, and not just 2,500 years ago. It's through time.
Not, not apparent, not traceable. We can't see it. All we see are aggregates. All we detect with our senses, with our thoughts, with our energies, feelings, is the movement of the aggregates of feeling, perception, sense forms. So this is the turning away. Here, now, try to remember those two words and practice them. So this is a little slogan, practice here now, and this is something you can do 10 seconds. But do it often. Do it after breakfast, do it after washing up, do it when you park your car, do it when you close the door, do it when you open the door and sit down. Here. This is the way through the body. Here is the sense of location. So we have this rupa form body, which we can see with our eyes and feel sensations. You also have this embodied citta, embodied aspect of citta, which means the sense of here. When you really contemplate that, where is that? Is it Amravati? Is it, Australia? Is it my house? Is it my feet? No, it's behind all that. The here is a a kind of locational quality that has no particular manifestation. Because wherever you are, you're here, right? So it has no specific location in terms of the manifest world. Yet it's a sense when you come into that, you experience groundedness, balance, ability to step back from the momentum of the aggregates. Oh, it's like this. And here's where I always was. Practice that here. Turn away from the form body, the rupakaya. Remember death. Something that takes a little bit more time to reflect upon, but the sense is this is something to reflect upon at least once a day. Perhaps in the evening, might not be tomorrow. Things aren't finished, are they? Now's the time to finish. Now's the time to say, sorry, oops, finished. The regrets, the grudges, the momentum, now's the time to finish it. Just let it go. Now's the time to take your blessing with you. Reflect on the death of the body, the breaking up. When you see a corpse, it looks pretty much the same at first till you look at it. This is dead. It's not the same. The citta has left. It's no longer vibrant. That very quality that we thought was a body, with its glow and its vibrancy and its potential, it's gone. You just got meat. Bring up an image like that. It's not so easy these days. People like to hide them. I don't know, when I was in Tibet a few years ago, I went to a sky burial. And sky burial is because they don't have enough earth to bury bodies. They don't have enough wood to burn them. So they have to drag them out in the open and let the vultures eat them. So when you go to a sky burial, this wave of vultures comes down the hill, like a tsunami. And there's two bodies, and then just buried on this huge pulsating wave of feathers and beaks. Wop, 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 wop. On occasion you see a little bit of a foot flying through the air. And you stand there, God. And then there's kind of incredible tumult. And then they're gone. And you look, there's nobody there. And it's, 10 minutes. Wow, get one of those. Wow, look at this. Vulture food. Wow, what was all that? And how many times do people look in the mirror and go, oh, double chin, oh dear, wrinkle, hair's got a bit grey, eyebrows, nose. Kind of powder on it, shave it. How much energy goes into that? Yeah. And they're kind of shoring up, trying to push it against the relentless tide of age, kind of waving its influence, the wrinkle, greying, the sagging, and then all the social thing you infer: too fat, too tall, too short, too spotty, nose wrong, ears wrong, eyes wrong, hair wrong, all that kind of stuff. Vulture food. I tell you, the vultures won't mind. And then you get one of those, you think, wow, what was all this about? Remember it. Yeah, now it seems impossible. Death is a theory. Happens to other people. You don't really get it until maybe you stand next to one dead body, and something in your body gets it. You feel your body kind of get it in the guts, and it knows. Something knows. This rupa khanda, this rupa kaya, just the shell. Use it wisely. Use it for grounding. Use it for establishing here. Use it to bring forth your intentions into skillful actions. That's using it wisely. That's keeping it tidy. That's tidying it. That's how you fashion your body. You fashion it like that. You don't bother with other things. That's your fashion for the body. A body that fashions skillful intention, deep presence, so you can sit in it and it can discharge stress, and you feel grounded and present, and you can get some perspective on mind. This is one of our daily recollections. This is of nature to die. Something is of the nature to die. This body is of the nature to undergo this profound change. So it's something to reflect upon many times. It is inevitable. And those who have reflected on it repeatedly have no fear. That's what it finishes, the fear, and the nervousness dies. You know, you got born, that was a struggle. You die, that's a struggle. But you can do it. You can get through. So no fear. Like we were reading out the list of names yesterday, somebody died 4 years old. You live in a monastery, it's every day, every day. Every day the notes are coming. Every day the notes are coming. My son, 25. My wife, together for 35 years. My dear father, my mother. Baby's born, died in the womb. Mother has to give birth to a dead baby. Death doesn't have a time, any day. There's no age on it. It's not just the other side of the golden sunset. It's to bear this in mind, and it's not to create misery, it's just to get a sense of, if you bring it to your citta time and time, and you pause and reflect, come through the wanting to dismiss it or shrug it off or, oh well, deal with it, it happens. Come through the senses of disorientation. What am I going to do? What about tomorrow? What about my dog? Come through that. And then you come to this place of surrender and peace. And you get the sense of the real value of what you've been doing in your cultivation. That comes up, the cultivator, when those tumult of the aggregates settles, it's your sense, oh, here's the openness, here's the radiance, here's the peacefulness, here's the strength. And it was always shrouded by this world of appearances. When the appearances are dropped, we get a sense of that. Reflecting on death. Another source of reflection, I picked this up from Lumpur Panyavado, his book, and he said, interesting thing. He said, well, The citta is real, but it doesn't exist. The khandas exist, but they're not real. I mean, they're insubstantial. They're smoke and mirrors. Powerful, dazzling, stinging, poignant, cloudy, full, overwhelming. And yet, where'd it go? Suddenly it shifted. Happy one moment, miserable the next. It's healthy, then sick. Praised, loved, adored, offended and insulted. Nothing shifts so fast as that. That's called existence. Bhava, the realm of becoming. What's real means that which is always unchanging. Here, now. That's called citta. You can't quite find it, but it can know existence as what it is. There's tremendous fearlessness in that.
So those are the reflections for this evening, unless there's any final comment or question, reflection.
Yeah, one more question. So when contemplating death and dying, and a feeling of terror comes up, or heightened anxiety, should one lean into that, the feeling of being very scared?
Actually, I'm not sure. I don't generally experience that. Maybe one of the other Ajahns can question.
Also particularly in regards to thinking about rebirth and hell or something. Not so much.
Well, I think one of the things is it always needs to be balanced in the sense of one is acknowledging very clearly, oh, there's terror there, so there's fear, and then, but then also fear and terror are actually not very useful emotions to dwell on. I mean, it's good to take note of and recognize, I've got some work to do here, so that I'm able to feel comfortable. So a lot of it is how to balance that acknowledgement of the the reality of death and one's deep-seated fear, because it's a very human emotion. But then also how to balance that with rather than a shutting down and closing up. That's not a useful way to approach it, but how to draw out or use it as a stimulus for the cultivation of the wholesome, of the positive emotion that, say, like kind of the sense of urgency or a sense of appreciation for goodness. It's like it needs to be balanced, or it needs to be tempered, so that it's not overwhelming. But it is a good reminder of what, where we need to do cultivation and work, because it's I mean, and especially at a young age, that that's a bit of a it's an intimidating thought to think of, oh, death is going to come. I'm going to be separated from everything that I'm familiar with. I mean, it's intimidating at any age, but especially when one's young. So it does need to be turned so that it is like a supportive factor in the cultivation of a balancing emotion and drawing close to compassion, loving kindness, a sense of again, appreciation of the truth of the teachings that the Buddha didn't sugarcoat it for us. He actually he figured we were mature enough and ready enough to be able to take on truth straight on. That's to me that's a source of a lot of wholesome reflection.
Sorry, I know we're running out of time, but one quick thought came up along similar lines that Xander, you were also saying, I think you said something about fear of rebirth and particularly thinking about hell realms and things like that. And I just recall, early in my discovery of Buddhism and karma and rebirth and recollecting and thinking, oh my God, all the things that I've done that I regret in the past, am I going to be reborn in a hell realm? That kind of thing. What's my destination if I don't, enter the stream essentially? And I think one reflection that came up for me as a way of kind of countering that fear and anxiety that came up with that thought was just, it was kind of this, maybe a bit contrived, but it seemed to work. Just saying, okay, well, if I get reborn in a hell realm, I will just set an intention right now to do whatever I can to help somebody else in that hell realm, and work through it together. Whatever I can do, to make it better for somebody else who, pushing the lumps of glowing embers along the side. And maybe I'll take their load of coals and see if I can help them out even for just 1 minute. So, as Paul was saying, it's like engendering that sense of compassion, developing those qualities of mind even in the worst of circumstances. But just, and then, along those same lines of that sutta in the one of the Samyutta, where the conch shell flower, it's kind of a long sutta, I won't go into it, but basically it says, you just have to accept what karma comes your way, but learn how to hold it in a way where the pain and the suffering is much less, and that's through developing an acceptance of past ill deeds and taking ownership of them, but also saying, okay, I won't do that anymore. I won't sow the seeds for causes and conditions to arise along those same lines, and then the final, after acceptance and resolution not to do the same kind of action, then it's again cultivating the foreground of the others, cultivating loving kindness, these spacious states of mind that can receive the experiences that come to one no matter what they are. The effect is felt much less than if one maintains a constricted mind. Those are just some things that help me with those thoughts.
I think Thank you. It's almost 7 o'clock, so.